You got it tuned into the Zelos Podcast. I'm your host, Rocky Snyder, and this week, Misha Cavaye is with me. He's a soft tissue specialist as well as strength conditioning coach, formerly with the LA Lakers organization. But before we get underway, check out my website, rockysnyder.com, especially for continuing education, workshops, and courses online and live. If you're an athletic trainer, physical therapist, chiropractor, strength coach, doesn't matter. Also, check out performbetter.com. They've got a 3-day functional summit coming up this summer in Chicago in June, Long Beach in July, Providence, Rhode Island in August. Also in July is the NSCA's National Conference. That'll be in Kansas City, Missouri, July 16th to the 19th. Register at nsca.com. And hey, you're online, you might as well check out setantacollege.com. And if you're interested in a master's degree with them, just put in the code RS10, get 10% off today. And follow us on Instagram at Rocky_Snyder. Click the subscribe button. Here we go. Misha, I can't thank you enough for taking a little bit of time out of your day. When I started reading your background and what you've been doing, I found like I had a brother from another mother, and I just needed to
Appreciate
reach
that.
out. I did. I really just, I'm appreciating your work, and I can't wait to dive in a little bit deeper. But before we do that, maybe just give us a little background about your career path, how you ended up with the Lakers, what you're doing now.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate that. I can't wait to share my story with you. Started as I was the athlete. I grew up in London, England, and I wanted to maximize on my sporting opportunities by moving to America, Los Angeles. Um, I wanted to play in the NBA, obviously, as everybody dreams of doing, but that fell short pretty soon when I hit the junior college level. It's just very tough. But I was always that gym rat. Always, loved working out. Like the coach, wanted us to, where not everybody did. So I was very good with that. Big shout out to my coach back in London, who already exposed us to weight training and a lot of plyometric track and field work. So I had that in my body to always be physically training and trying to outwork people, idolizing Kobe at a young age, already planting those hardworking seeds in me. So, it was kind of like, I was that gym rat guy, but not good enough to play. But then when it was like, okay, well, I don't really want to just sit on the bench and I wanted to be exposed to basketball at a high level. Therefore, instead of going to a Division 3 or lower level school, I wanted to uh, quote unquote intern, or yeah, whatever you call it, be a student volunteer for a high level D1, and therefore learn the ins and outs and nuances of the high level. Plus, it was just all this the politics of coaching and all that. Just as a player, it was just very, it was just beating me down. Like, oh, I keep recruiting these players, and you get no playing time. So, that was my decision. I wanted to get into coaching. So first off, it was getting into coaching. But one thing, as I went to a Division 1 mid-major school and got to learn from them, which was pretty cool. One thing is I always believed that coaches should have educations in sport, a background in education in sport, which is astounding that in America coaches do not. So therefore, it was natural that, okay, I'm going to do my kinesiology degree and learn about the sciences and all that. That started to really intrigue me because I was just like, oh, this is interesting. Working at a high level Division 1 basketball team was good, but it was not so much my cup of tea. As I was sort of figuring out in my last year of where I'm going to go, and I was like, okay, let's maximize on all your opportunities. I had some time, so I was like, let me intern in the strength and conditioning department just to kind of get exposure to that. Because if I really want to be a good coach, I might have to design a strength program. So I should probably know what we're doing here. It was that internship that actually kind of swayed me. I was like, oh, this is where I want to be. I need to be in the weight room, not necessarily on the court. I think this is where it suits me more. So that kind of from there it took off, and after school, I just did a quick little Equinox stunt like we all do, which was rough because our location was very sales heavy oriented, and we had a very young fit population and I just my style of training just did not fit in. But that's where the door kind of turned there too, because the most successful trainer there, and the one who was also leading our in-house education. She was really good with injuries, and she was like, "Well, if you want to be, good with clients, you got to be good with injuries." So that's what I was like, "Oh, okay, all right." And she knew this guru who was actually pretty influential to me. Goes by the name of Dr. Peter Rouse. He's a New Zealandie. I think he's now either in Switzerland or New Zealand, but he traveled around the world doing, working with various athletes and rehabilitating people, mainly through strength and conditioning and manual therapy. His background was in exercise phys and all kinds of stuff. He had multiple degrees. Very, very smart guy, and one of the out of everything I learned from him has really stood the test of time in terms of all these things I'm learning today. So highly influential character. She learned from him, and I would end up reconnecting and working for that guy later down the line, which therefore fueled this knowledge of neurology and nutrition and basically a lot of the holistics. So again, this is all planting the seed of not just to be a trainer, just to lift weights and go home, but to really start thinking of how do we construct a better human body, and that the human body is kind of fragile. And if you train it, you can really do it wrong. You can either do it the right way, or you can kind of do it the wrong way, which was where a lot of trainers like, yeah, whatever. They didn't care about the message. I cared about that message. I got let go from Equinox, wasn't good with sales, so that chapter ended. And that's when my buddy hit me up and said, "Hey, do you want to be a ball boy for the Lakers?" Well, it wasn't even the Lakers; it was with their minor league team at first. So I was unemployed. I was like, "Yeah, of course, get me on." And it was during the lockout year, so the Lakers were sort of at a halt. But then they went back into, NBA season opened up, and through the staff being around and seeing me kind of like hustle my butt around during the development league games, they're like, "Oh, we like him. Let's move him. Let's bring him onto our squad." So it's like I immediately got hired by the Lakers, but usually you have to put in your time with the minor league for at least a year or two before you get out. But I got very fortunate. This was great. This was my foot in the door. I was prepared for the grinding work because I had kind of done that at the Division 1 level, but now you're at the glamorous professional level. So yeah, sure, I'll serve water and towels, and I'll do all these laundry and all these grinding things. So that was I had to do that. I did that 5 years, the equipment manager stuff. But that was my ticket in, and I was like the lead equipment manager within a year. So that gave me the close access to Kobe, close access to the training staff, because this is where, again, I was like, all right, you can now kind of pick brains and find out of opportunities and learn different things, which I did. So, we had back then, things are very different now. There's so many more staff these days. You have probably like not only one medical staff per player now, but up to like multiple medical staff players per player. It's crazy. Back in those days, there was 5 for the whole team: 1 strength coach, 2 athletic trainers, a massage therapist, and a PT. Everybody, including the strength coach. So the massage therapist was a PT, the strength coach was a PT, and then we got the 2 ATCs and a PT. So I was told initially by the guru, the head ATC, Gary, I don't know if you remember Gary Vitti, the longtime athletic trainer for the Lakers. He was there for 30 years, the bald guy with the goatee. So
Yeah.
he was actually pretty awesome because, he did mentor me a little bit, called me into the office and talked about, "Hey, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go with this?" Because he saw like I'm serious. And to be honest, not many people will ever do that in the NBA. And the fact that the Gary Vitti did that for me is huge. Contrary though, he was a little negative. He was like, "I don't think you'll work here unless you're an athletic trainer." He thought he's like, the only way you'll be able to work at this level is if you are familiar with injuries. That has now definitely changed because in those days it was a very, like I said, athletic trainer minded league. It was like, "Oh, we need lots of athletic trainers. We need lots of athletic trainers and PTs." Now that's completely changed. You have your ATCs, you have your PTs, and then you have your strength staff. They're very sort of almost divided a little bit because they want their own sort of security and whatnot. Back in those days, it was more like, no, we need a very unified staff. My thought process was this. All right, well, I'm not going to go back to school, get ATC certified. It's just too much.
Sure.
He didn't understand that he was, he thought I could just do my hours there, go to school and get my license. No, it's way more work than that. But my thought process was if I get my massage license, then I can do all the hands-on rehab. And if I know the training, then I can pretty much do the rehab training. I just don't evaluate, and that's cool. I don't really care about evaluating, but I want to fit in with this sports medicine setting. So that's what my goal was. And not included the massage therapist, who was also very he was very kind in terms of giving me advice. He was from Finland. Kobe really liked him, and he had an off-season training business. So he's like he was multiple certified, and that again, that just gave me this thought process of having multiple skills is only going to give you more value in terms of what you do. Um, but there was a genuine love for that as well. It wasn't just like, oh, let's just get some certifications just to have. No, I really actually was like, no, I want to be able to like heal, touch the injury, and then let's move and get better through it. I like having that hybrid skills. And then the sort of the final piece that led me into eventually doing this for the team because uh, Kobe retired, right? He retired and a lot of shift. There was a lot of movement in the organization, and that's when they decided to finally have a strength coach for the development team. They did not have anybody before that, so I
Oh, really?
became yeah. No, it was again new, just an athletic trainer doing everything, and they had like 2 to 3 coaches max. When I came in, it became a 5 coaching staff. It was me, the athletic trainer. They allowed me to also do massage therapy. I had to do equipment as well, which was the grind. But that's what I would do for 8 years. Not equipment. Eventually, I phased off that, and eventually, I actually phased off massage too, just because of necessity in the weight room. But for 8 years, I was the head strength coach for the minor league team, um, which was wonderful because we got to work with 25 plus call ups to the NBA, the league's MVP, rookie of the year, defensive player of the year twice. And we went to the Western Conference Finals twice, I believe. Yes, twice, I believe. So good times. Got to work with Coach Kobe Carl, George Carl's son. He's with Philadelphia 76ers now, as well as Miles Simon. 2 great coaches, learned a lot. And that journey unfortunately just came to an end. This ended. This training camp. They just decided to make a lot of changes. They made a lot of staff changes throughout the off season, and then eventually that led to me going on to a new path, which was kind of overdue because the professional lifestyle is very tough. It requires a lot of your time with them, uber amounts. Like there's really on your side, there's no days off because injured players need constant daily attention because you got to get them back. People who aren't getting playing time always want to do some extra work, so you got to cater to them. So even when there is like an off day, you're often in, unless it's considered,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
basically 8 years of nonstop. I mean, of course, there's a little off season. You can come up for a little bit of air, but mainly this, as nice as of a romantic idea of working for the pros is, there's the other side that you're saying right now.
yeah. Missing so many events where after so many years, you're kind of tired of it. You're like, I want to spend time with my family and my friends. And the thing with the off season is, we have so right now at this point you have the combine, which we're all
Yep.
expected to go to, and that's a good time because it's a good strength coaches hoorah. You learn a bunch of things, but okay, that's another 5 to 7 day road trip away. Then you have summer league that comes up. So in between combine and summer league, you have pre-draft testing. So you're in the facility 4 days a week anyway with pre-draft testing. Easy going, but still it's taking up your time there. Summer League is 2 weeks, 3 weeks away in Vegas, which is again nice, fun, hoorah, but it gets very lonely being out there that long. Then you finally have some downtime, but then beginning of September, you're back on it because training camp starts, and then that's when my G League guys are starting to get involved, and it's just a year-round show, which is good with the flow and the ebb and flow of it, but yeah, like the amount of time you're away, and if there's other things you can do in life, there's other things we can do in life. We don't have to be married to it.
Yeah, well, I see your role as the head strength coach for the G League team in those years that you were there, much more involving uh, a broader spectrum of athletes than, say, the lead strength coach for the first team, the NBA team. Now, not to take away from Ed Street, Ed is fantastic, and all of the performance directors and strength coaches in the NBA have risen to an amazing level. But what I'm trying to get to, Misha, is that you have you've got a group of athletes that are trying to get up to that level. You've got another group of athletes that are recovering from some kind of injury that need to integrate into return to play before they actually go up to return to performance. And then you've got those kind of in between players that are just they're not necessarily career minor league, but the likelihood of them moving up is probably not as great as other players. So the way in which you design your programs is quite a broad spectrum, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. Like the level, the exposure you get at the G League or minor league is so great. The only thing you don't get actually is your megastar caliber player who's playing 82 games. So with that, yeah, I don't have experience with that, but you get so much experience. You get your NBA vets who are banged up. You get your youngins who just need to learn how to lift. You get all these people. And my biggest thing was after year after year after year of not getting called up to the NBA, which is one of the things I kind of, wish I would have at least at the end of the day gotten moved up to the main team, but it didn't happen. But my biggest fear was like, man, when I get moved up, am I going to be bored? Because I love being involved, and I did everything for my guys. I was their nutritionist, I was their strength coach. I'm making sure, I'm getting them to do their breathing. I'm so involved with them. Delivering vitamins to their door on the road, making sure that got their hydration pre and post. I was so involved, and that exposure just gave me a lot of experience. And in the NBA, it's just a lot, like I said, a lot different. Like you might be managing maybe only one to four guys if you're lucky, but usually, maybe three guys. Um, some of which might not want to lift, and in that level, you just don't have a say because maybe they just don't want to lift. I mean, even in G League, I had guys that didn't want to lift. It just is what it is sometimes. And then with the 82 games, you really have to tailor back, step back, and be like, all right, I got to make sure he's ready to play. Where in the G League, we had at least like half a week to kind of rev them up and get a little bit of, post activation potentiation, if you want to use the correct words, to get them kind of ready for the game. So you had that sort of leeway. Now, in terms of how broad the programming is, that's a tough one because again, I'm having up to five guys in the weight room at one time. And this is where the saying goes: logistics sometimes trumps physiology. You got to do what works. Not to say that my programs were cookie cutter. I'm making adjustments for each person or saying like, no, you need to do this. But generally, we had our day where we're going to do our this patterns. Day B, we're going to do this patterns, this patterns. Day C, this patterns, and you just kind of make it work. And some people get a little bit more based on their abilities. Some people get a little bit less, and you just make
Now,
it work.
when you say patterns, I'm kind of curious.
Mhm.
And one side of my head is going, okay, patterning being one day we're going to do bilateral, another day contralateral, another on
Good
unilateral, or is it going to be patterning in terms of sling effect? Like what patterns are you talking
question.
about?
So, at the time, and I still kind of follow this regimen, but I was following Ed Straight's, the head strength coach's regimen of day A, B, C lift. He was pretty laid back. He's like, you can do what you want, but I kind of want these main lifts done. I'm like, fine, okay, I can work with that because I can tailor and make sure you're getting all these other checkpoints as well while we're still getting these lifts. And it's just basic, he wants a day a squat with a hamstring, a day B, a lunge with a hinge or RDL, a day C, a bilateral hinge with like a lateral lunge. Okay, and you could spice it up and mix it around, but they're basically as opposed to sort of your typical hips and hammies kind of day or back and biceps. It's more multi-planar, multi-muscular because, again, you may get a guy once or twice a week to lift because of the game schedule. Therefore, you want to hit as many of those sort of checkpoints. That was their philosophy. Kind of agree with it at that level. Yeah, it was so sort of like lift game. It's hard to really overload tissues and really go for adaptations. So you kind of wanted to make the lift a little bit more general. Where I spice it up, I make sure I get all my slings with my core work. I make sure with every day we're covering we're covering some sort of core conscious ability of triplanar with a sagittal movement, a frontal movement, transverse, maybe it's a little bit of a sling, cross, multiple directional. But I'm trying to find that and dial that in every single workout as much as I can and make every single workout a bit of a teaching experience of how you can move through three-dimensional space. And let's add some force to it. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But I think the body reacts best if we kind of mix things up together. So,
Okay,
yeah.
so one of the things that really intrigues me, and I do a bit of it, is manual work. Now, for me, it's more skeletal when I'm getting my hands on people
Mm-hmm.
compared to more of the soft tissue. But
Mm-hmm.
either way, we're getting our hands on our clients, athletes, and and I'm wondering how you integrate it in, if it is meshed in with their training, their training at that moment. Like, for instance, you're watching somebody do some type of lunge pattern. You notice something's not quite right with their timing. That's going to lead you up to their hip or their adductor or their gracilis, whatever it is. You look at some movement, you're going, okay, that's not moving fast enough. That's moving too fast. Maybe we can interrupt this with a little bit of soft tissue work and then integrate that movement back in.
Well,
Or is it completely separate? Like, I got them on the table, then they're going to be doing loading. I'll get them back on the table later.
more so like that
Yeah.
because to answer to the A scenario, if I see something wrong, we're gonna address that more so with a movement technique or something like that.
Okay.
If I
Such
can,
like
especially
with
with the
bands or
hips.
some type of RNT work or something to try and elicit the proper response in the
Yeah,
training itself.
yeah, I
Got it.
would say because that's a more of a nervous system. I mean, no, it could be soft tissue. No, don't get me wrong. There's been times I can see there. It's usually more when they're saying, this does not feel right,
Mm.
and then like, yeah, it's really tight. Okay, you kind of feel around, you release. Oh, okay, I move much better. Okay, that could be that scenario. But generally speaking, if I'm seeing a movement dysfunction, I'm not going to address that no so much with soft tissue. I'm going to address that with a movement technique. But what you're saying, in general, I would love to see people first, and this is what we do at the clinic where I'm at. Get them on the table first, address what we need to, and then we get them into the weight room and do the movement. And obviously, I did that South Bay with the South Bay Lakers team as well. Very nice, sort of. I liked it because I understand what the athlete is needing on both ends. See, when you have a massage therapist and then you have a trainer, sometimes they don't always, understand and meet in the middle. Whereas I at least sort of knew, okay, well, this guy's constantly got these knots in his thighs, so maybe we should try and do something a little bit different for him to make sure offloading those areas and getting him some more glutes or whatever. So these little things, they're tremendously helpful. And again, going back to why it influenced me to do soft tissue in the first place is that well, you can really help somebody if you can understand both sides. And it's been a blessing in that regards.
Right on. Okay, so every movement is an assessment, every assessment is a movement, right?
Hmm.
It's all about your understanding of what you're seeing, and can you unfold the riddle? With that, are there specific patterns that you like to take someone through, specific actions that will give you a better understanding of their movement literacy, the resources that they have and where they're restricted?
Oh, that's a tough one. Um, that's a tough one. Well, I mean, it really depends on, like, am I seeing somebody with an injury? Am I seeing, or just an athlete ready to go? I do like to see range of motion on a table just because it's just a helpful gauge of letting me know, well, again, where this person is at. Just staying with a posture assessment, just tells us, okay, where they're at. Standing posture assessment tells me where they're at. Table assessment, but the all-time one is a walking assessment because the saying goes, fish swim, birds fly, humans walk, and that is what we do. And that will tell us a lot about how we move as well. So walking assessment's great. I'm trying to
So
actually,
with that, if you don't mind, the walking
yeah,
assessment, let's talk a little bit about that. Because, and not to put this too much under a microscope, or for that matter, put you on the hot seat. I don't mean
yeah,
that in any way, but we've got 360 articulations in the body, most of which move through three planes of motion. And
hmm,
therefore, there's 1,080 potential joint actions. And a gait cycle is less than 1 second. And during that zero point 0.6 to 0.85 seconds of the gait cycle, every joint is meant to move in a certain pattern. So from an observing standpoint, it's very difficult to almost impossible to try and capture all that. So when
absolutely.
right, so what do you look for? I guess my question is, when you watch somebody walk, I know what I'm looking for, but I'm curious to know what other people are looking for. What do you look
Yeah,
for?
yeah, and make no mistake. I was not doing this for years, and I'm trying to make it a habit now. And I regret it almost. I almost regret it because ever since my first soft tissue, after I got my basic massage license, I did this. I did a myofascial release course by the name Myo Detox. I don't know if you know them, but they're a
Yeah,
PT company. Yep, yeah.
sure.
Uh, and they're also very movement oriented. So that again, it really fit my vibe because it was like soft tissue and movement. Um, so just even through there, understanding, um, sorry, lost my trail of thought.
Like
What was your
gay pet.
question?
Well,
What
I
was your
will say
question?
this, just while you're thinking about it, myodetox, for those not familiar, you should definitely look it up. They're starting to expand across the country with the
Huge.
help of my mentor, Gary Ward, who is part of,
Yes.
he created Anatomy and Motion. He developed the flow motion
Yeah. Yeah.
model,
Okay. So
which is all
it was
about
about
every
walking.
articulation. So
Yeah.
I knew we were talking
Yeah.
about very similar things. So
So
go for it.
yeah, no. So the main thing we learned there, because he learned from the same person, what you're talking about, Gary Ward, was you got to do a walking assessment. And I wasn't even doing it much at first, but nowadays I'm doing it all the time. So huge, huge, and I regret not doing it all these years because it takes practice. Because it's
Yes.
just something you have to just do step by step. First, you start, you can go bottom up or top down. You choose.
Hmm.
If you go bottom up, what are the feet doing? How are they pointed? Can you notice any patterns in the way it hits the ground, or as they're walking away, the way the heel is, hitting the ground? Next, going up to the knees, what are they doing? Stuff like that. Noticing anything there. Hips are kind of hard. You'll probably have to develop a bit of an eye there, but over time, you'll notice some rotations there. The big giveaway, though, that everybody should look at is arm swing. Arm swing is huge. Arm swing will tell you a lot about where that person is going. Uh,
For
for
instance, give us a couple examples. What do you when you see something occurring, what does it tell you? Like my left arm swings freely, my right arm stays by my
Yes,
side. When do I
very
walk?
typical, very typical. Could mean a lot of things that they're stuck on that right leg.
Yeah.
They're not able to get off for whatever reason. We could go a little bit deeper with that. and even talk about how there's some uh, synchronization with your ability to really move freely and get peripheral optic flow. You're not perceiving the space well, and therefore you're just a little bit more just not moving off that right leg as much.
I'm
Um,
loving you, Misha. I
yeah,
am loving this.
so the arms, that's why the arm swings are really key. But it could just be lack of breathing. You're not breathing air into that space, and therefore this is just not expanding well. So you have to kind of sort of look at other things. Again, that's where table tests will help kind of figure some things out there. But as far as up here, there's a lot that will tell you up here as well. That's where you have to get a little bit more advanced. But you can look at their neck. Are their neck muscles getting involved with this walking? Are they doing anything with their jaw? Are they looking down at the floor? Is their head just going forward? A lot of things we can notice, which is why it takes time.
Yeah. Yeah, there's tremendous amounts. But what you're telling me also, and what I do too, is that it gives us a starting point. Whether it's an arm that's not swinging, hey, let's just begin there. Or if it's a pelvis that's rotating tremendously, or it is tilting laterally, like almost
Sure.
a runway model or something that's exaggerating, or they're doing the merengue or something like that. It's like, why is there an abundance of movement here? And where isn't the movement occurring? It's
Hmm.
all kind of almost a mass game. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. And
Yeah.
so, what other avenues? You mentioned neurology, so I'm curious. Did you study motor neurology with any specific group, or was it all
No,
on your own?
the credit there. So I did my myodetox course. I was enjoying being this myofascial guy. Um, I got influenced at this gym. Had a lot of high level trainers there, training independently. This guy had a lot of high end athletes, pros, who wasn't doing any manual stuff, but he was very good with the biomechanics. And he was very kind enough to share what he was doing, which was Postural Restoration Institute.
Oh,
Um, and I kind of did a course and never looked back. But then we also had at Lakers temporary, just for 1 year, an assistant strength coach with the main team while I was with the G League team, who was also well immersed with Postural Restoration Institute. And he's the one who allowed me to see, okay, this gets really deep. I mean, you could take your basic few courses, which I did, and I thought, okay, I know this stuff. And he's like, well, there's so many levels to this, so many levels to this, including talking about jaw and eyes and all this stuff. And so that just kind of just set this off in me. I was like, well, I gotta learn this stuff. And again, going back to this Dr. Peter Rouse guy I learned from before, who was already talking a little bit about jaw, already had taught us a little bit about releasing muscles of the eye. So it's like I knew there was like relevance to this up here, but who's teaching it? And posture restoration, um, yeah, I just have to give my hats off to them because they're one of the best institutes in terms of learning the full integration process of the body in terms of what is happening with the feet, the hips, the thorax, the cranium. And when it comes to cranium, jaw, eyes, all in relation to how we move through space against gravity, but also with a little bit more deeper twist of really of thinking of who are we, where are we going, why are humans like we are, and everything is backed by research where those leaders just like this is how it's been, just we're just trying to connect the dots, and it's not dogmatic in that sense. It's a wonderful institute to learn from. Is it neurology? No one claims anything with neurology. It's just it is the nervous system, and it is a functional approach to the nervous system because this is how we manage walking, standing, all of that stuff.
well, now you're beyond pro sports. You've left the organization of the Lakers. Give me an understanding. You've already mentioned you're at a facility or clinic, and you're seeing people that have potentially chronic or acute issues, and then you're also seeing athletes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
where's your life now? And because I gotta say, most of the guests that I have on, there have been several that have left professional sports, and most of them are still within the realm and the industry. But life after pro sports is kind of an interesting topic. Where do you find yourself?
Wow, that's a great one. I'm not gonna lie. Like at first, there was always this question of what's next because I knew I wasn't going to move to a different city to pursue this dream. I knew I wasn't going to do that. That did not equate to happiness for me. Because I know how the NBA is. I'm like, that's putting all your eggs into one basket. Your wife's not going to be happy. You guys are going to be lonely in your city. You better love this team. Your head coach better be someone you enjoy working for. Otherwise, you're going to go into work, not be happy, be in a city you're not happy. And at any point, the coach and the whole staff could get fired, or GM could wake up and be like, "I'm done with you guys." So I'm done with that. I'm not doing that. I'm staying in LA, and if LA or the Clippers don't want me, Lakers Clippers don't want me, that's it. So there was always this question of what next. And when I did get let go, at first there was a bit of like just a sort of scramble to kind of find your feet, which I definitely have done. But I want to put it out there that it is a bit, after a certain few months, there definitely was that sort of feeling where it's, I don't know what if it's not bitterness, but you miss it. You miss certain things. And it is hard. It was like, yeah, it's hard to watch the Lakers and root for them. I mean, I did not root for them. I'm not gonna lie. Um, things like that. But even watching it, you just see certain things like pregame routines, those special moments with players, which develop so organically. Those things that you'll never get back. I mean, obviously you don't miss anything else, and you're glad to be at home. But I'm not going to say that you never look back. Obviously, there's certain things that you look back and you're like, that was a really good time. Um, but right now, like, yeah, like I work at a performance gym, D1 training. It's a chain. They're right next to my house, and they helped get me going. To be honest, like when I was like, all right, you got to get yourself moving. You can't be stuck in the house. I walked down the street to the performance center. I was like, hey, why not? And that was a really nice sort of just way to just be involved with youth athletics. And actually, it's gotten me exposed to different sports because all this time it was basketball, basketball, basketball. And now I've done lots of football and different baseball and soccer. And that's been really cool. I wanted to always be involved with different sports and have a different thought process, figuring out process. The job I cherished or enjoy the most is being at this clinic. It's called Elite Performance Clinic. With my guy Adam, a basketball trainer who has a lot of connections, and even the PT side does things really well. And I'm respected well there. I get to do how I have to operate how I like, and it's really good because I am working with high level athletes and or if not people with pain, and I enjoy both either way. I really, I enjoy healing. It is kind of what I feel like I'm meant to do. But then otherwise, there's I also coach basketball at Santa Monica College because
Oh, you do?
stability is a good thing, and can't just didn't want to do independent work solely. I've known the coach. I went to Santa Monica College, and I know the women's coach there. She's been there forever.
It's a
So
great campus. I love that campus.
yeah, yeah. So great, good memories there. I was there forever for like 4 years. Actually got my feet wet in coaching there. So I'd already known the women's coach. He'd mentored me a bit, got me some advice, and got me going. So this was basically me making a call saying, "Hey, I'm looking for work. If you know anybody." And she was like, "I actually need somebody." And yeah, great place to work. So very blessed just to have some stability and some flexibility there. But I also get to do the independent stuff, the stuff that I like. And I'm just doing lots of different things.
And where's your curious mind taking you in regards to future learning and knowledge and education? Is there any place in particular? You've mentioned several, myodetox, PRI, and so on.
Yeah,
Anywhere else?
well, Detox is kind of now a corporate chain. They no longer educate outside. They're just educating people who are going to work for them. But they are, and I don't know if you noticed, the lead founder Vin now even co-teaches with Gary Ward. So if
Yeah.
anything, they're more adopting Gary Ward's stuff and infusing it with theirs. So I actually have looked into Gary Ward's because I've actually done his foot course already.
Oh,
Um,
good.
Detox did their version of it. I did theirs first, and then I wanted to get a better understanding because it's just so much detail. So I did Gary Ward's. Um, Shout out to that program because you can do it all online. I mean,
Yeah.
geez, what a blessing. And I spend a lot of time in my car these days, so I need learning stuff in the car. So I'm torn between them and or just diving further into PRI. Like I'm just I hate to sound biased, but their stuff is so deep in the sense that you've got the webinar videos, hundreds that have so much detail. You've got 10 plus courses. You've got the basic courses that really need to be re-understood. And when I said 10 plus courses, each course has its own manual that needs to be read, like a thick manual. And I'm out of the 10 courses I've done, I've at least read 3. So I've got a lot of
Wow.
reading to do there. Um, there's just so much stuff to pick up. It's really an intriguing course. And again, very much like the blueprint of the human body, where if you understand that blueprint, when you see newer ideas and different philosophies come, you have a better understanding of, okay, that's something I could really adopt. So that's why it intrigues me so much and again, if they're backing things up with research articles, let's go. It's all science then, right?
That is fantastic, Misha. Okay, so Uh, I would love for people to begin to follow you. Obviously, LinkedIn is a great place, but what about other channels like Instagram or X or anywhere else? Do you
Yeah.
post information?
Uh,
Your
Honestly,
website?
I need to be more of a producer of it. But I used to be, I go on phases. I post mostly on Instagram. Big Mish Moves, Mish, which is my name without the A. So Big Mish Moves. I post mostly then, but these days I've been trying to be a little bit more. I go through phases, whether it's me working out or informational stuff. And right now, I'm a little bit more posting results just because I'm trying to boost my business. So I go through phases like that. But even then, I'm most active there. So if you want to get a hold of me, LinkedIn, anything I post to Instagram, I post to LinkedIn too. But honestly, bless LinkedIn because it does filter out a lot of noise. And there's actually, frankly, a lot of opportunity on LinkedIn. I've heard of people who've gotten jobs in the NBA through LinkedIn, just asking, and obviously going through an interview process, but just asking that question. And just like you did, you asked me, and I'm like, yeah, let's go on, come on this podcast. So LinkedIn is great if you want to get a hold of me as well.
That's great. And I'm so happy I did reach out. It just seemed like, oh yeah, well, this is going to be a great conversation. And I have a feeling we could go for another hour and dive even deeper. But
Good.
with all the sports, I am curious. I kind of have to backtrack here. You were mentioning all the sports that you're learning in regards, but also just experiencing with the players that participate in those sports. Is there any sport outside of basketball that you find the most intriguing, or you've learned the most in a surprised manner?
That's a tough one. I do see a difference. I definitely see a difference. Like almost, I hate to say it. I do feel like football guys kind of almost pick up things slower. Not literally, but mentally, whether it because they again maybe so bilaterally exposed, right? So
Yeah,
now
yeah.
coordination stuff gets a little hard. But don't make no mistake, basketball players struggle with that too. Long frames, right?
Sure.
Uh, but soccer, obviously good. Now again, football, it's also dependent on sort of position, right? And the size. Um,
And
I
you're in the
don't.
land of beach volleyball. You got a lot of beach volleyball
No,
players?
unfortunately, not. Well, we have a coach who does volleyball at our gym, so she kind of gets the volleyball players. I have
Got
worked
it.
with them in the past. Um, but they're also very very usually very good with training and stuff. They just again need to be exposed to like the right kinds of training to protect their shoulders. But generally very good athlete because they do a lot of jumping. and they have
Right
good
on.
rhythm. They have good rhythm and timing with that because the penultimate step. So again, I feel like sometimes football players that I've worked with struggle with learning that nice, good rhythm because they're just so power based. If I had to answer that question anyway.
Sure. And if there are people listening right now, they want to learn more about your particular services and they happen to be in the LA area, or maybe you could see them online, how would they get a hold of you?
Again, either you could message me through LinkedIn or through Instagram. Those would probably be the best ways. If you wanted to drop my email down, it's mishac23 at icloud.com. That's how I usually take any consultation requests or anything like that. But yeah, I'm very much, that's what I do is I see people with pain and a lot of complication issues. I try to tie things together with them. All right, what needs to be released versus what exercises can we give you to provide that relief instead of looking for, I guess, constant release. Where some people are like, I've been going to the chiropractor, but my neck keeps hurting. No, something like that, those kind of stories. Generally, that's who I tend to see. Yeah, I do see athletes in training, but that tends to be just at the gym only. And I don't tend to do more training and independently, just more so focused on injury stuff and getting people back to function and back to play.
That's some of the most powerful stuff, isn't it? Just love that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
to change people, to give them hope, and to
yeah,
see them do things that they weren't sure they could do ever again or for the first time. I mean, that's what a gift to give to others. So,
yeah,
yeah, I love it. Misha, this has been great. We're kind of up against the clock here, but
yeah. I
I'm always
understand.
open to a follow-up conversation somewhere down the road for sure. I know you're going to end in good areas and good locations just by what you're doing now. So thank you so much for coming on.
No, I really appreciate you for having me. I love talking about my journey and what I do, and it's amazing that somebody's asking these questions who has such a good understanding as well. So it's all great. It's all been great. I appreciate you having me on, and anytime I can come talk about stuff, I'd love to.
Man, that was a great conversation, and I'm sure to have Misha on again. But if you want to follow him, be sure to check his page out on LinkedIn and check out my website, rockysnyder.com. We've got a whole bunch of things there, including wedge kits, blogs, podcast archives, and a whole bunch more. Be sure to meet me in Providence, Rhode Island this August when I'll be presenting with Perform Better in their 3-day functional summit. Just go to performbetter.com to register. And this July, join me at the NSCA National Conference. I'm putting on a 2-hour workshop on open and closed chain foot mobilization and how to create your own movement screen for the general population. July 16th and 19th, Kansas City, Missouri, nsca.com. In the meantime, have yourself a great week.